like to welcome you to my channel, Healthy Living with Ro D. And this morning I'd like to welcome you to my kitchen. Today I'm going to be preparing a pizza rustica. Pizza rustica is generally made and served in many homes, Italian, American, as well as in Italy, during the Easter celebration. It is made most likely on Friday, Good Friday, and it can be served on Holy Saturday or Easter Sunday. Reason being this came about is because it is the end of the Lenten season and we finish our fast at, I would want to say, 12:01 a.m. on Saturday morning after Good Friday. And this is a way that many Italians celebrate. We celebrate with food. And depending on where you're from in Italy, you will make a pizza rustica, or it goes by pizza gana, or it goes by pizza chiana and pizza piana. Generally, in the Neapolitan area, the Calabrese area, and I think the Neapolitan area, they make it with pizza dough. I will be making it with, it's not pizza dough, it's homemade dough, but it does not have yeast. It is a baking powder based recipe, and mine will have ricotta in it, and there are other versions that do not have any ricotta. They have a lot of cheese but no ricotta. And so let's get started. I'm going to show you the ingredients first. This is the dough for the pizza rustica, and I made it yesterday and I refrigerated it because I wasn't ready to make the pizza rustica yet, but I wanted to be prepped up so I wouldn't have as much to do the day of. So this is what it looks like. It's a very soft dough, and if need be, I will be adding some more flour to my board when I roll it out later. What goes in it? Okay, I'm not going to give you the ingredient measurements. Let me see if I can get myself in here. Not easily done. I'm not very good at this video taping, but in any event, let me just give you the information and then we'll move on. So what is going in here? The measurements will be in the description box with the recipe, so that you can refer there and print it off if you like. The first thing I did was fill this is 2 cups, and the container is a 2-cup container. I filled it with ice and water. I put it aside while I was gathering everything else so it would get icy cold. You need ice cold water for this recipe. What you need is it's going to come up to a 1/2 cup. So once this is ice cold, rather than play with the measurements back and forth, I just simply pour the water up to the 1/2 cup mark and I'm good to go, as I'm going to use it in the recipe. What else is in this recipe? We have baking powder. We have all-purpose flour. Sorry, it's backwards. You can either use shortening, which is what the original recipe calls for, or butter. I use some of both. I happen to really be a butter lover, and so that's what I chose to do. Some salt, an egg, a whole egg, and that covers the dough. So now let's get back to the filling. Moving on with what goes in the filling. We have an assortment of things here. I'll start with my sausage. This is sweet Italian sausage, fresh from the store, and I'm going to take it out of the casing and fry it up in my frying pan. And the measurements, as I said before, will be in the description box along with the recipe. I can tell you that there's a lot of leeway in terms of what you put into a pizza rustica. It goes according to your taste. If you don't like pork sausage, you can use chicken or turkey sausage. There are other pork products that I'm putting in here, but you certainly have the ability to use non-pork products. You know, like turkey sausage, turkey pepperoni, that type. The dried ones, that would work well also. Okay, it's going to take 2 hard-boiled eggs, which I have previously made and chilled because it'll be easier when I go to peel them. You could also make them, peel them and chill them, if that's your preference. And then we have some Black Forest ham, and I will be cutting this up into cube-sized pieces. Yes, that's what I'll be doing. Most times you would want to get a 1/2-inch thick piece of ham if you're going to your deli. I didn't go to the deli for this ham, so I'm just going to work with what I have. Again, it's very forgiving. Even if you wanted to put slices in, there are some recipes that call for sliced cold cuts. You could do it that way. Lots of room here for being creative. This is dry sausage salami. This is something that you may or may not find in a non-pork product. I mean, they may make it in beef, I'm not really sure, or you can just leave it out and substitute something else that you prefer. But this is going to be cut in halves. These are little coin size. But I will be cutting them even more when I put them in, so that when you go to bite into it, you're not going to, or use your fork, you're not going to have a whole piece come in to your mouth. Much easier to eat that way. This is bite-sized hot salami. And again, it's in coins, and I'll be slicing these up. And then we have our prosciutto. It is suggested that you get a 1/2-inch slice and cut it up that way. As I said, I didn't buy it at the deli, so I'm just going to be cutting it up and putting it in as I go. We also have, I've chosen to use Asiago cheese because it was what was easily available to me without going to another store. I'm going to be cutting this up in chunks. It's about, I don't know, that's quite an inch thick. And I'm going to be placing it into my filling. This is Pecorino Romano cheese, which I will use as grated. I like to grate my own. I don't like it will have no fillers in it. It's much more flavorful, and that's my preference. Other people, that's not, and that works too. As I said, whatever you enjoy eating, put it in. There's no law. And I have my ricotta here. Much would have preferred to make my own. It's really a very easy thing to do if you're interested. Just look up a recipe, you'll find many of them. It involves lemon juice, vinegar, white vinegar, and milk. But again, lack of time, so I just bought this. And this is a 32-ounce one. You can get smaller ones. Again, you may not want to put as much in as I will. This is part skim. I would suggest probably, the recipe is going to say whole milk. Once again, many people do not have, they don't live in Italian neighborhoods where you can readily get all these things, like at your Italian deli or even in your supermarkets that have many Italian different options. So I chose to show that in my video, that you can still make this and just find different ways of making it based on what you can access. Okay, so that's going to be in my filling, and let me just make sure I didn't leave anything out. Oh, I didn't pull out my mozzarella cheese. I'm going to be using shredded today. Again, that was my choice. You can use the whole one and cut it into cubes. If you prefer to do that, that's what most people do, I believe. Just my choice. And there's also going to be 2 whole eggs in the recipe. 2 whole raw eggs mixed in. And I think I have everything. I do. And a dash of salt. So, on to, let me get everything prepped, and I'll be back to show you the rest. You can see here that I am in the process of browning down my sausage, which I have taken out of the casing. And I like my sausage to be very browned down. The recipe says slightly brown it in a tablespoon of water. I have not done that. I just put the sausage into the pan, and I have it now on medium heat. And just be careful not to burn it. And what I will also do is drain off any fat, excess fat, as I take it out of the pan, so that I don't have that in my piece of Rustica. That is not in the instructions, so just to let you know, this is what I do. You are free to do as you normally would do when you make your sausage. You don't have to even remove it from the casing. You can just cook it and then slice it up if you choose. So yes, This is almost done, and we'll be on to the next step. As you can see here, I have a large bowl, and you need a large bowl so that you have enough room to mix everything. You don't want things to overflow. That'll make it very hard for you to mix and uncomfortable. What I've done is I cracked an egg, and I just wanted to show you how I do this. When I use eggs, I always am sure to crack an egg in a separate container before I put it into whatever I'm making, so that I make sure that I don't have a bad egg in there. It only takes one time for that to happen to you. Fortunately, I've not had that time happen to me, even when I didn't used to do this, but it can ruin an entire recipe, so we don't want to do that. Okay, on to the next step. We're going to beat this with a fork. I have added my ricotta to my eggs, and now I'm going to mix this up really good. You can just use a wooden spoon or a fork, whatever you like. So now I have all of my ingredients prepped. This is my ricotta mixed in with the 2 eggs that were beaten first. I have my Pecorino Romano grated. I have my mozzarella shredded, which calls for it to be cubed, but as I explained, you use what you have, right? And then the Asiago cheese that I'm putting in 8 ounces. That's the entire slice that you saw. Is not an ingredient in this particular recipe. However, in most recipes, it calls for provolone cheese. So I, again, am taking creative license, and I'm going to do that. With my prosciutto, as you can see, I have the papers left. I cut it with the paper. It's not paper, it's plastic. With the plastic, I used my kitchen scissors, because if I would have taken it apart, it just would have become a big glob. So I will individually place it after I place my filling into the crust dough, the dough crust. Sorry about that. So everything is prepped. I did drain my sausage, and I also put a few of these coffee filters in the bowl and put the sausage on top, so it'll take off any other fat that I couldn't drain off already. And I did cool it down, because you don't want to put hot into the ricotta with the egg, because that won't be a good thing. It could curdle it. Okay, so moving on to the next step. What I've done is I've taken a quarter of my dough. I forgot to mention earlier that I made a double recipe in that dough. By the way, this is such a beautiful dough to work with. Oh my goodness, it's so forgiving. It's so soft and easy to roll and move around. I'm going to be making, these aren't individual sizes. This is an 8-inch tin, because I'm gifting these to family members. So I didn't want to cut it up. I'm very much someone who enjoys presentation of my food as much as making my food. So I'm going to be making individualized, I'll call them. So in order to do that, I wanted to make extra dough, because I really wasn't sure how that was going to work out for me. So you do not need this. This is made by Wilton. It is, I have it the wrong direction, sorry. In other words, it's used for making pie crust. So you can make, or anything that's round. So I've rolled this out to 10 inches. However, easy enough to figure out, make a round circle that it's going to work. There's even going to be some overlap. And then you just cut it off and put it to the side, because some of it we're going to use for the top. I'm going to make a lattice on each one. So it's always good to have extra dough when you're experimenting. At least I think so anyway. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my little mini bastone, which is another word for your rolling pin. I didn't even need to use my marble, my very heavy rolling pin for this. It was just so, it's such a beautiful, beautiful dough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to gently, lifting as I go, because I don't want this to get all stuck together. Take my dough now. You can see how I have that, right? And I'm going to very gently, this is not a heavy pan like a pie crust pan would be, roll it over as I've done, and then I'm going to gently drop it in as I go. This side has more, and I'm going to make that up in as I go around. And I'm going to gently lift this and press with my finger so that the dough doesn't rip and that it goes up the sides from the bottom of the pan. Because when you put your filling in, you don't want this dough to rip. If you don't do this, there's a great possibility that it will. Because the filling is quite heavy, and you want it to be up against your sides like so. And there is some to cut off. I will go around. I do have a couple of different things, and I have even used a knife. You can use a pizza cutter. You can use one of these gadgets, which is used to cut crustally or any other kind of dough, pie crust dough. So yes, this is what I've done, and I think that's perfect. I'll just go around and cut the edges off, and I'm going to refrigerate this, and I'm going to make my next one, and I'll be back. For my next step, I have taken my two chilled pie crusts, and let me see if I can put this up to the camera because I can't move the camera at the moment. I've gone around, I don't know if you can see here, at that angle you might be able to see now. And with my fork, I've gone around, leaving a space in between every time I put holes. And this is going to keep it from bubbling up. I have decided that I'm going to put these two in the oven, preset at 350 degrees for 10 minutes. And I'm going to watch it because I'm concerned that because they're so small that my dough may not cook as well as if it was in the 10-inch round pan as one recipe. So that's going to be my experiment, and hopefully it's going to work out. And I will be back to let you know. Hello, I'm back with half my head cut off. Back up a little bit. Okay, so I have completed my experiment with, I'll show you closer, putting these pie crusts into the oven for 10 minutes at 350 prior to filling them. So I'm just going to continue on from here. Basically, this recipe is kind of hard to, it's pretty foolproof because everything is cooked. You just want to make sure that everything comes together and isn't runny, and that your eggs are cooked, the raw egg part, because the ricotta can be eaten out of the container. So there's nothing here that the sausage is already cooked that we have to concern ourselves with. And also we're not worried about anything, like a cake rising. So I would encourage anyone who wants to try it to just give it a shot. Make it your way. You don't have to put it in pans at all even. As long as this is thick enough and not watery, you can even make it into a huge calzone style. They do that. Or you can make it into like a torte style where you will fold over, you'll make it round and then you'll fold it over to where you have an opening in the middle like a pizza shape. So I always like to encourage people not to be afraid to try different things, because oftentimes people don't do things simply because they think they're going to, mess it up. So in any event, I'm going to now continue on with my recipe. This recipe, by the way, I've had for many, many years. Years ago, in New York City, in the Bronx where I'm from, we'd go shopping in Arthur Avenue, which is my place of birth, and you would go into the different markets and delis, and they would post at the different holidays recipes, because naturally if you are looking at that recipe while you're shopping, you might, chances are, buy the ingredients from them. So it made sense that they offered you a recipe during those times of the year, because it was good for business, and it was also good for us because we got an actual recipe that we may not have made. So in any event, my oven is going off. I put it up to 400 now, so it's ready for everything to be baked. So what we're going to do now is we are going to combine our ingredients. Now, I did add an extra egg. I did chop my eggs as neatly as possible. And I'm making a decision on how I want to put my eggs into the recipe and my prosciutto. I may do somewhat of a layering, but in the meantime, for right now, we're going to start by adding in our ingredients to the ricotta and egg mixture. So I'm going to start with my mozzarella, and I'm going to mix that in. And I'm only using fork, it's very easy. You don't need any special machinery, kitchen electronic things. And then I'm going to mix in my ham and my dry salami. Give it a good mix. Okay, that's good. You don't want to overwhelm yourself by throwing in, I mean, you could do the kitchen sink method and just throw it all in at once, that's fine. For me, it's easier if I mix it a little at a time. And now I'm going to put in my hot dry sausage. And I'll put in my fresh cooked sausage. And this smells, by the way, if you like garlic, you would be wishing that you were here right now, because I wish I could let you smell how this my kitchen already smells, and it's not even baked off yet. And this does give you a lot of filling. Oh, it's gorgeous. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, now it does call for a tablespoon of the Pecorino Romano or the Parmigiano, whichever you prefer. I'm going to sprinkle that on top of each pie. So I'm going to be using more than a tablespoon, obviously. And I'm also going to sprinkle freshly grated black pepper. A lot of people's recipes call for that. I happen to enjoy having that, so I'm going to add that in at the end. Some people also put pepper into the crust. I was thinking kind of that another idea would be to put some oregano into your crust. You know, when you're making your dough. To give it kick up the flavor a little bit. Okay, so now, I don't know that I'm going to be able to, I may have to make another pie, which is fine. I can even make a crustless one. My husband will enjoy it immensely. It doesn't take much to put another dough together for this, honestly. Even if you did a half recipe, you could do that, put it into a Pyrex dish, and you're good to go. So now what I'll do is, I'm going to throw in half of my cheese. This is my Asiago, which is also not a part of the original recipe. And I'm going to see where I'm at, because I may put them in as a topping in the end. Okay. Now, in terms of making these individualized, you can just fill them up. Just don't overfill, because it will go over the top, chances are, and that won't be pretty in your oven, and it won't be pretty for your pie. Okay. I will show you. This is what I have so far. And it's half of this bowl, which is a large bowl. So it's a good amount. I think it'll be great to distribute into my 4 pies without a problem. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that part, and I'm going to come back to you. So I have now lined 2 baking sheets, and then I placed my pie plates on top, and I went ahead and used more than half of my filling and divided it out amongst the 4, and then I divided out my eggs to put on top, and now I'll do the prosciutto. Okay, so I have evenly distributed that prosciutto, carefully removing the plastic in between the slices, which proved to be a little more laborious than I thought it would, but that's okay. I'm very happy with that process that I did. And now what I'm going to do is top these off with the remainder of our filling. As you can see here, I've evenly topped off with the remainder of the filling, and then I sprinkled about a half tablespoon or so of the grated Pecorino Romano over the top of each of these. Now I'm going to do the last step. I've taken 3 eggs and I've beaten them up with the fork, and I added 2 tablespoons of whole milk. If you don't have whole milk, you could add water. And what I will do now is with a ladle, I will evenly distribute these eggs over the tops of my pies. What I did is I went around each one and I put wells with my little spatula so that the egg can go into the filling instead of going all over the top and then spilling over. So I will be back. What I did earlier in between making the different parts of the recipe is I took the remaining dough, I'll show you, and I made it into a rectangle and thinned it out. And then while I was doing everything else, I had just simply rolled it up and put it into the refrigerator so it would be easier to cut. Even though this dough is the most forgiving dough that I've ever worked with. Not that I'm any expert on dough, but in any event, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the serrated edge of this pastry cutter, and I'm going to make strips. And I pushed it out to, I can show you here, that these would be longer than the pie pan so that I can overlap, because I'm going to make a little lattice. So I'm going to cut this, and I'm going to do one, and then I'm going to show you how I do one. Or I should say demonstrate doing one. Okay. I have my strip of dough, and I'm going to just put it across like so. And then I'm going to take the second piece of dough and put it across in the other direction. I hope you can see that. Okay? And now I'm going to take the third piece of dough and I'm going to put it over top this way. Okay? So this is actually weaved in now. One is on top and one is below. And now I'm going to take the fourth piece of dough and I'm going to put it over here next to the third one. And then I'm going to lift up this one and place it over top of that one. And then I'm going to go around and cut off the ends with my cooking shears. And I will tuck these ends in. You know, if you put them, tuck them in, press them down onto the crust. And then this is what it looks like. If I had more dough, I would have done more lattice work, but I don't, so you work with what you have. And then I'm going to take, this is 1 egg with about a tablespoon of milk, beaten, and this is going to be my egg wash, and I'm going to go over the strips so they come out nice and shiny and they also stick together better. And I'm going to go around the edge of the crust with this. And then I'm going to place my pies into my 400-degree oven, and I'm going to keep checking them after 15 minutes, I'm going to lower my oven down to, can't see me, so sorry, 325. And I will keep checking them because it says first 15 minutes at 400, forgive me, and then the second half at 325. You want to do it for 45 minutes. But that would be if you were making the 10-inch round large pie. So considering I already pre-baked a little for the 10 minutes at 350, I'm going to keep an eye on it, make sure that it doesn't burn, as well as I am not making a full cover on this. Per your 10-inch, you would be putting like a complete cover of dough over top of it. So since I'm not making it that way, I have to keep watch on my time. Okay. This is the results of our pizza rustica recipe as I made it. I must say my house smells heavenly and these look beautiful to me. The crust came out nicely cooked. I checked the bottoms, and I can't show you offhand because I'm holding my phone and these are very hot. Let me see what I can do here. Do something. Okay. You can't really see the bottom of it. There you go. And I will explain everything in the description box of how I went about doing it and what you didn't see on camera while I was baking and all that. But in any event, really came out perfect. And I have nothing more to say. I'm just so excited that they came out right, because you know how it is when you're making something to give away as gifts. Hi, I'm Rodi, and I'd like to welcome you to my channel, Healthy Living with Rodi. And this morning I'd like to welcome you to my kitchen. Today I'm going to be preparing a pizza rustica. Pizza rustica is generally made and served in many homes, Italian, American, as well as in Italy, during the Easter celebration. It is made most likely on Friday, Good Friday, and it can be served on Holy Saturday or Easter Sunday. Reason being this came about is because it is the end of the Lenten season, and we finish our fast at, I would want to say, 12:01 a.m. on Saturday morning after Good Friday. And this is a way that many Italians celebrate. We celebrate with food. And depending on where you're from in Italy, you will make a pizza rustica, or it goes by pizza gana, or it goes by pizza chiana and pizza piena. Generally, in the Neapolitan area, the Calabrese area, and I think the Neapolitan area, they make it with pizza dough. I will be making it with, it's not pizza dough, it's homemade dough, but it does not have yeast. It is a baking powder based recipe. And mine will have ricotta in it. And there are other versions that do not have any ricotta. They have a lot of cheese, but no ricotta. And so let's get started. I'm going to show you the ingredients first. I wanted to thank you all for watching my video today. I hope that you enjoyed it. And I also hope that you will experiment and try your own pizza rustica in your kitchen. Just remember, as long as your ingredients are fresh and good, all you have to do is use your imagination and put a lot of love into your cooking. And I'm sure that your family and friends will enjoy it as well as you. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.